back behind this beautiful blue microphone. And man, I've been itching to get back. It is so good to be back. I welcome everybody back in the archive. Make sure if you're watching this in the archive, as most people will, to hit that like button, hit the sub button. If you're not subbed, then make sure to hit those alerts if you're hitting the sub, because we know how YouTube is at this point. You have to go through all of those hoops in order to see these videos. So make sure you're doing that stuff. And it's been a minute. It's been about 2 weeks and had life stuff going on. And that's really it. Just had life stuff going on. Got in the way of putting out content here, putting out lives. In the meantime, I've been putting out a lot of short form content, short form editing content. So make sure to go to the channel to check out all that stuff as well. And you're going to be seeing a lot more of that. The reason you're going to be seeing a lot more of that is I find myself the past few weeks going back and watching old fights and breaking down the old fights and films. So I figure I might as well put out content on what I'm seeing in these fights technically and just put it out there. So I've been doing that. So I appreciate everybody who's been watching that short form content, and make sure to check out the shorts as well. In the community page, been putting out a lot of content there. And you're going to be seeing a lot more mixture here. You're still going to be seeing the long form stuff here. I'm still going to be putting out the podcast a few times a week. That's not going to change, but wanted to mix in the short form stuff as well, mostly because I've been discouraged, sort of depressed out of a lot of the stuff I'm seeing from the boxing world right now, the boxing news. It just gets me depressed. So I find myself at night, instead of scrolling through Twitter and looking at boxing news coming out currently, just watching old fights, just watching a lot of old fights and breaking down those and putting out content as far as that. So you'll be seeing a mixture of that as well, but a lot of funny stuff. Shout out Mr. T in the building. Make sure hit that like button as y'all come in and leave y'all's comments. Anna Lee, appreciate you swinging through as always. Jerry E, hey man, David fighting another leftover. That's right. Instead of us getting Benavidez versus Plant, what are we going to get? We're going to get Benavidez versus a guy Plant fought 4 years ago. Because of course, and this is the stuff, the depressing stuff that I'm talking about. It's like, okay, Caleb Plant had a beautiful knockout. It was a beautiful knockout. And he's shoveling dirt on Darrell's body as he lays there. And I'm yelling, oh man, that is beautiful. It's beautiful. He's shoveling the dirt on top of Darrell. After Darrell says, I'll never lose to a white man. And it's beautiful. He's shoveling the dirt on there. And we have a highlight reel KO. And we got Plant versus Benavidez talks going on again. Everybody's like, man, I love to see Benavidez versus Plant. Love to see that fight next. Love to see it fight next. 2 days later, what do we get? Benavidez versus Uzcategui. Benavidez versus Plant. No. We're not going to do that. Guess what you're going to get instead? You're going to get Benavidez versus the guy Plant beat 4 years ago. That's what we're going to give you. It's like, wait, what? We're going to do what? What are we doing? What are we doing now? Instead of giving us Benavidez versus Plant this weekend, they gave us Plant versus the dude Benavidez already fought. So we're getting the fights that nobody's asking for. We're getting Benavidez, not Benavidez versus Plant. We're getting Benavidez versus the guy Plant already beat. Then we're going to get Plant versus the guy Benavidez already beat. And I'm sitting here like, wait a second. Hold on. I have a question. Why can't we get Benavidez versus Plant? Just a crazy idea. Just a crazy idea. People are asking for it. I know this is crazy. I know this is crazy. I get it. It's crazy. It's just a crazy question. But why can't we just get the number 2 in the division versus the number 3 in the division? They're both under the same umbrella. So I'm saying you got another guy, Morrell Jr. in the top 5 in the division. Why don't we can't get 2 versus 3. How about we get 2 versus 5 or 3 versus 5? All these guys, easy fights to make, correct? They're all under the same umbrella. And I've been told constantly, I've been told a million times, we can't make Al Heyman versus Bob Arum fight. We can't make a Bob Arum versus Eddie Hearn fight. So we got to keep everything in house. So I'm sitting here, I'm asking the question, wait a second. 2, 3, 5, all these guys are in the same umbrella. And then we got 160 Charlo over here not doing anything. So he wants to move up to 168. So why not do that one? Can we do Boo Boo Andre? It sounds like he's going to sign with PBC. Can we do that fight? Any of them? But no, we can't do it. We can't do it. Can't happen. Can't happen. It's too much to ask for. Calix, stop with it. Stop being unrealistic. It's unrealistic to ask for a PBC versus top rank fight. Okay. Okay. All right. I don't believe you, but okay. So at least give me the PBC versus PBC fight. No, Calix, you can't get that either. Okay. What am I doing here then? What am I doing here? Because I'm not interested in Benavidez versus Uzcategui, and they're telling me now that, oh, Calix, Plant just fought, and, Benavidez doesn't have Morrell Jr.'s fighting beginning of November. Like, yeah, okay. You can't get the Charlo fight for whatever reason, so it's just a stay busy fight. Now, I'm asking the question again. I'm raising my hand again. How many stay busy fights is this dude entitled to? How many? How many? His whole 9-year career has been a stay busy fight. And you expect me to pull out the smile violin? Oh, David Benavidez. David Benavidez who missed weight. David Benavidez who couldn't keep his nose clean. David Benavidez who fought his only fight in calendar year 2022 was against the 80-year-old David Lemieux. He had, 6 minutes of work in the whole year. I'm supposed to feel sorry for this guy. Oh, Calix, David Benavidez wants the fights, though. He's just not given the fights, all right? It's the promotional company. It's not David Benavidez. The fighters want the fights. It's just the promoters getting in the way. Okay. So if David Benavidez is not happy with the fights that the promoter is giving him, why is he going on the Boxing Voice last month and saying, I love Al Heyman. I love how he's got in my career. I love everything that's going on. We're signing a 3-fight extension. Everything's great. Everything's great. Thank you to Al Heyman. And by the way, God, thank you to him too. But thank you first and foremost to Al Heyman. If David Benavidez is not pleased with the fights that he's getting, why is he re-signing? Doesn't add up. You just told me David Benavidez wants the fights. If he's not being delivered the fights, why is he re-signing? Interesting questions that I keep asking and getting no logical response. Coming back. Why are we getting David Benavidez versus Uzcategui? Why are we getting that fight? I know the answers. I'm just asking people out there, why are we getting these fights? And why do you continue to praise the people who continue to give you these fights? Am I really supposed to sit back here and cry that David Benavidez isn't getting the Canelo fight when David Benavidez continues to fight fights like this? How many career-defining victories does Benavidez have in 9 years? And you're going to come back and tell me, oh, because he's ducked. He's not ducked. If he had the belt that he dropped on the scale, he would have got the Canelo fight already. That's number one. Number two is he's got a ton of dudes in his weight class in the top 10 in and around his weight class who are under the same umbrella. And I'm being told that Benavidez is being ducked. Plan is being ducked. Bubu Andre is being ducked. Charlo's being ducked. Morrell Jr. is being ducked. So I once again have to ask the question, why aren't these guys fighting each other? How is it possible that all these guys are being ducked and all these guys are doing the ducking simultaneously? How is that? Doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. Benavidez is ducked and Plan is ducked. I have a crazy idea. Like, they were both available. They were both available before Plant fought Darrell. I was told that Plant needed a comeback fight because he was sunned by Canelo. Okay? I was told multiple times that Benavidez needs a stay busy fight. He needs a stay busy fight. And like I said, his whole career has been stay busy fights. And at the same time, these millennial boxing fans are telling me that this dude is the boogeyman and that he's ducked. It doesn't add up. Supposedly, Benavidez wants all these fights. His promoter isn't giving him the fights. His advisor isn't giving him the fights. Then why is he signing a multi-fight extension with the advisor that's not giving him the fights if he wants the fights? Like I said, I know the answers to these questions. I'm just throwing them out there theoretically. and people can do what they want with them. I don't want to hear this Mexican Monster hype anymore. Mexican Monster beating semi-retired old guys. Shout out Chauncey Pearls, Tatum, and Pulever, the only two notable wins of Chisora's last 10 fights. And Chisora has lost 7 out of his last 15. 7 out of his last 15. Tyson Fury. And I keep throwing this out there like this heavyweight division. You talk about a division. Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury sums up this division perfectly. It's like there's some talent there. There's talent, but we've got undisputed on the table. And what Tyson Fury does is, I want to fight the Icelandic tough man. No, I want to fight Chisora a third time. No, I'll fight Usyk. No, I'm going to hire a new trainer. No, 2 days after he hires a new trainer, I'm going to retire. So this guy has more retirements than defenses of his belts. I've never seen that stat before. Like, how do you have more retirements than defenses of your championships? It's Tyson Fury. The same moves that Tyson Fury was making back when he beat Klitschko, those are the moves he's making currently. Again, history is repeating itself. So then after he retires, he unretires, gets to keep his WBC belt, and now he's holding it hostage. And now the WBC is saying, yeah, defend against Chisora, and then Wilder can fight Ruiz, and then you guys can fight each other a fourth time. We'll mandate that fight after that. And it's like, no, wait a second. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Once again, crazy boxing fan over here saying, wait a second. Why can't we just go like once again, the heavyweight division is a fight away. It's literally right there of the undisputed championship of the world. That means there's one. It's done. There's no dispute as to who the guy is. The fight is right there. Once again, the heavyweight division is there. Defenses have gotten away. Rematch clauses have gotten away. And now we've got Fury's mental illness getting in the way. It's like, dude, the fight is right there. Fury versus Usyk for all the marbles. It's right there. It's a big fight. It's right there. No, I got a better idea. Instead of that, let me fight Chisora a third time. We're going to do what? You fought him twice already, and the fights were not in question. Literally nobody was asking you to fight the guy who has lost 7 out of his last 15, and you guys haven't fought each other in 8 years. Why are you doing this again? Because it's a heavyweight division and because I'm Tyson Fury. So that's where we're at with the heavyweight division. But once again, man, Benavidez versus Usyk Tegwai. And then we got Fury versus Chisora 3. It's the fights that boxing fans don't care about are the fights that we're getting. The fights that we care about are the ones we're not getting. Why? And it's gotten to the point where we're so starved for entertainment that we're bragging about a weekend that we just had that, quite frankly, wasn't a special weekend. More on that in a minute. The new breakdown videos are dope. Good stuff. Appreciate you tuning into those. He wanted to fight the winner of Bivol versus Zerto. 2 weeks later, he's fighting Juska Tagwai. And that's another thing. We need to be consistent, right, on the doping guys. So a couple weeks ago, I said I still want to see Conor Benn versus Eubank Jr. because I know nothing's going to be done with this anyway. There's no consistency with drug dopers and being punished, and there's no consistency anyway. So why are you going to nail Conor Benn down? I'm hearing lifetime ban. People saying 5-year ban, 3-year ban. And then a couple weeks later, Usyk Tegwai once again gets a shot at Benavidez. Was supposed to have the fight last December, but test positive for an EPO. 5 months later, he fights, and 10 months later, they sign another fight with Benavidez. Now the smoke is cleared. And my point is, where is the consistency? And that's why I was asking for the Ben versus Eubank Jr. fight to happen anyway, because I know they're not going to hold these guys' feet to the fire anyway. The same riders who are out there virtue signaling about guys needing to be banned several years. They're the same ones voting the guys who are drug cheats into the Hall of Fame. And the same ones praising or turning a blind eye to fights like Benavidez versus Uska-Tigwai. When Uska-Tigwai is 10 months off, 10 months removed of testing positive for an EPO. And my official position is I don't care anymore. I don't. Give me my fights. Don't care. I don't care who's popped anymore. Don't care because I know nothing's going to be done about it anyway. No consistency. So just give me my fights. Stop getting away with it. Stop getting in the way of it with the drug testing. I just don't care anymore. I just don't care anymore. But there's no consistency with these writers, with these journalists, with these boxing fans, because they're going to turn a blind eye to Uska-Tigwai, who popped 10 months ago for an EPO, yet they're going to try to give the guy who tests positive for a female infertility drug 5 years, 3 years, 1 year ban. Whatever. Benavidez wasting his career at the PBC, damn shame. And it's inactivity. Stay busy, fight, stay busy, fight, stay busy, fight. This is the new model in boxing. And it leads me to what I was just about to say the past weekend. Everybody's acting like last weekend was this great weekend in boxing, and it just wasn't. It was marred with mismatches. I told you what you were going to get with Wilder versus Helenius, and you got people out there claiming that Wilder versus Helenius was a dive, that Helenius is out there diving. And I'm telling you, Helenius doesn't have to take a dive. Helenius was in there for a reason. Helenius was in there because he wants to dive. You don't have to fix a fight when you put a mismatch on paper when it's signed. He doesn't have to take a dive. He's Helenius. He was a guy who was a 20-1 underdog to Glaunoski before he pulled off the upset. This is Helenius. He was knocked out twice already. He's pushing 40. He was the sparring partner. Deontay Wilder knows him inside and out. This was going to be a knockout. I was telling you when it was signed. And this is what I dropped a video on here on Twitter telling you this is a mismatch. This is not a pay-per-view fight, which is the reason why they're not announcing the pay-per-view numbers. You're not going to get those pay-per-view numbers. When they come out with the pay-per-view numbers, guess what they're going to give you? They're going to give you some flawed number, some false number. They're not going to give you the real number. And there's a reason it's Wednesday, the week after, and you don't have the numbers. When Canelo fought, they had the numbers. They had those numbers right away, didn't they? Now we're 4 days, 5 days out, no numbers. Nobody asking. What happened? Because the numbers suck. That's why. Because nobody wanted to see the fight. Outside of boxing Twitter, nobody wanted to see Wilder versus Helenius. There was a reason they were handing out tickets like candy. Comp. You want 4 tickets? You want a hotel room? Here. We need to paper it. We need to get fans in the stands. We need to make this look good. Because nobody wants to see this crap. Wilder versus Helenius. I couldn't believe it when this fight was announced. And people were, oh, that's a good fight. Oh, it's a good action fight. Oh, that's a great fight. No, it's not. It's not a good fight. It's not a good fight at all. Even the odds makers got it wrong. 8-1? This was far wider than an 8-1 fight. Helenius was there for a reason. He was there to get knocked out in the first round. He didn't have to take a dive. As soon as Wilder touched that chin, it was over. The dude's been knocked out twice by much lesser opposition, and they did a great job of selling the few gullible people out there that they could on this fight when it was a complete mismatch. You don't have to take a dive. Helenius was the dive. When they signed that contract, fight was over. The fight was over. Wilder versus Helenius sucked from the beginning, and what made it worse was it was a pay-per-view. And they actually had people out there defending this fight. Caleb Plant, great knockout and great celebration, but he was a 12-1 favorite against Darrell. who was pushing 40 himself. And that's what we got. And what I'm telling you is they moved the goalposts so we're so starved for any kind of entertainment that we're passing this off as a great night in boxing. Rematch clause. Why in the hell am I watching Devin Haney fight Kambosos again? Like, I'm watching this and I'm like, why am I watching this again? What is this on my TV for? And I stayed with it, man. Like, I stayed with it. I was trying so hard. Like, I put on the split screen. I put on Utah versus USC at the same time, but I'm trying so hard to stay engaged because I like what Devin Haney's doing with his career. When he says he wants to fight top competition, I believe him. I believe that he wants to be the best. But at the same time, why in the world boxing? Why am I watching Haney versus Kambosos 2? Is because the damn rematch clauses again. Why couldn't we go straight to Haney to something else? But instead, I got to watch a rerun of a fight that Haney won 10 rounds the first time. And then he wins 10 or 11 rounds the second time because, duh, hello, duh. And this is being passed off as a great weekend of boxing. You know, when I dropped that original video and I got attacked for it by a lot of the PBC fans, Wilder, Helenius, why is this a pay-per-view? Why is this fight happening? This is a trash fight. And they're telling me, stop complaining about the pay. Just don't watch it. You don't like pay-per-views, just don't watch it. And I was trying to figure it out. I was like, why do these dudes have Stockholm syndrome? What is this? And then it's like, stupid, callous, dumb. They don't buy them anyway. They got the hacked Fire Stick. They got crack streams. They got mess streams. That's what they're doing. They're not buying the pay-per-view anyway. They're not buying the apps. They're not buying ESPN Plus. They're not buying DAZN. They don't care. They don't care. That's why. And that's why they're attacking me for criticizing the pay-per-views, because they're not buying them anyway. They're not buying them anyway. And I'm subsidizing the freeloaders by paying more for the subscriptions because they're the ones hacking the fights. And they're getting mad at me for criticizing their favorite advisors, promoters, fighters, when I'm the one supporting them, and they're not. I'm the one supporting Wilder, the PBC, the Zone, ESPN Plus. I'm buying all the apps, buying the pay-per-views. They're freeloading. I'm subsidizing them, and then they're getting mad at me for criticizing their favorite fighters when I'm supporting their favorite fighters and they're not. D-Style, what is wrong with me?
Nothing. Look, this whole idea of if you don't like it, don't watch it, or I've never understood that mentality because, like, don't we want the sport to thrive? Like, don't we want the best fights as fight fans? Like, isn't that like? Let me put it this way: it's kind of like me going to a restaurant, ordering a steak, and they bring me chicken, right? And then I'm like, "Why? I ordered steak." Yeah, but just eat the chicken. Well, what do you complain about? It was well cooked. We have the best chef in the city. Just eat it, right? What are you complaining about? What's so hard about just do it? I mean, there's people in the world that don't even have anything to eat today. You're complaining because you got chicken or steak. Like, I guess you could do that about anything, but and the reason I'm saying that is because I want to see certain fights. These fights don't happen. I instead get, something else, I get just something different, and then I'm criticized because I'm criticizing the fight. The shit doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. And in the case that you're talking about, a lot of these fans out here don't buy fights, right? I mean, they just don't. They stream it, okay? They watch it on their computers. That's what they do.
That's it. That's it. I mean, I know we talked.
Imagine buying it, and like 2 minutes later, it's like all over. The whole fight's on like YouTube. Everyone else got it literally like 5 minutes later, bro. It was all over Twitter 5 minutes later.
This is another one of my issues with boxing is you have to adapt, and they haven't adapted to that yet. It's ridiculous. But if your entertainment value is good enough, I was talking to a UFC fan about that over the weekend at a party I was at. I run into these UFC fans all the time. They still buy the UFC pay-per-views, even though all these things are out there, is because they like the product and they're going to support it. And there are enough of them that 7, 8 of them get together, and they're, what is that, $7, $8 a piece for the pay-per-view, $10 a piece. So it's not a big deal. But if the entertainment value, if the product is good enough, you find your way around that, right? And the issue here is the pay-per-views are so bad now that, and they're so common that people are just going to see that and decide that, no, I'm just going to hack it. I'm going to hack it. I'm going to go around it. I'm going to pirate it. And that's where we're at. Like when this fight was pitched, I just didn't get it. How can anybody support this? How can anybody like this? How can anybody praise this? I was seeing people hype up Hellenius, and this is going to be a good, entertaining fight. And I'm like,
dude, the dude he went from just another boxer to like, oh, he's a Viking warrior. He's going to fight the Viking warrior. This guy's a Viking. Like, no, he's not. That's number one. Vikings don't exist anymore. Okay. That's number one. Okay. Second, just because he's white and Nordic doesn't make him a Viking. Oh, he's a Viking. Let me tell you something. He's going to fight a Viking D style. Like stop. I'm going to send a challenge to all these dudes that were calling this guy the Viking warrior. Like this is all I want to hear. I want you to send me footage or screenshots of you calling him that before he was scheduled to fight Wilder.
uh-huh.
I want to see if you were talking about him that way before the Wilder fight. Now, look, Alex, I don't have an issue with the, like, if I'm honest, he got beat up pretty bad twice by Fury. He needed a gimme. It just didn't need to be on pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's the issue. It should have been
original, because they were trying to sell this as something it was not. And it's a comeback fight. It's a showcase fight. I understood that when I saw Wilder Hellenius, but when you attach pay-per-view to it, when you attach an extra paywall, and then when people try to sell this as something that is not, that's when I start to have an issue. It's like, no. He's going to knock this guy out. He's going to knock him out quick, and that's what this is. It's getting Wilder a body. And this is what I said after the Fury fight, after the second one, after the third one. Wilder needs a body. He needs to body somebody and get him back on track. So I was fine with that part of it. It's just when they start to attach the other stuff to it. Pay-per-view, this is some sort of great fight, entertaining match. It's not. It's just not. We saw it for what it was. The same thing with the Plant versus Durrell fight. We saw it for what it was, and they tried to sell it as something else. But I don't know about you, like the actual fight, and I don't know if you caught Wilder's shadow boxing before the fight. And you and I talked on the phone about this the other night. Briefly, is watching Wilder, he looked super stiff, even more so than normal, like super stiff.
It's ironic because he was talking about being more loose in his interviews.
Right. And he looked super stiff until he landed that right hand, but he just looked off to me up until that point. And people are going to think I'm crazy for that. Oh, it's a first round knockout, Calix. You're reading too much into this. But watching the shadow boxing and watching that, it just seems to me like there's some sort of identity crisis going on to where, and you hear it in the interviews after, right? He's sort of crying about fighter safety and all this stuff. He's giving Hellenius the long hug. It's sort of like some sort of crisis going on to where maybe he wants to be more of a boxer. Maybe he doesn't want to take guys' heads off. I don't know. But when I look at Wilder going forward, the Ruiz fight is lined up for him to look good because he's going to look good. I think he will. You might disagree with me on that. I think he's going to look good in that fight. But
he's not going to
after that, like, how do you think he lines up in the top five in the rest of those with the rest of those top five guys?
Yeah, look, it is kind of hard to gauge because it was only, and I anticipated a couple weeks ago we were talking. I said it's going to be an early night. You know, it's the only way I could see it. But I don't know. Wilder's at least recently, he actually used to be a little more loose and box a little better before once he started knocking dudes out left there. Once he realized, I'm sure he always knew he had power, but once you realize the extent of his power, I think he kind of abandoned a lot of his boxing, to be honest. So it is what it is. But like I think he digressed in skill over time, but became a better fighter at the same time. It's like weird, you know what I mean? Because he became like a sharpshooter with a knockout. So he kind of changed from that bronze medal boxer, and he digressed with his what we know as traditional boxing skill, because he's always been criticized for that. I mean, Ray Mercer was asked, I forgot who has a clip on here, but he was asked, like, hey, do you think Wilder could bounce back from the knockout? And he said, no, what he needs to bounce back from is getting some boxing skills. What he needs, like, so he doesn't have that, like, that pedigree's kind of gone in a way, right? But so I don't know. But what I do know is this. I do know the power's real. I do know that if he lands that punch, he can knock anybody except one dude out. As of right now, that's what the data shows me, right? Like Fury at this point, after doing all those rounds with him and going down 4 times and getting back up every time, well, it's not impossible. It's unlikely he can knock out Fury, right? So that's
Bernie's, that. Right?
Yeah, he's already had a shot. You already struck out. In other words, you got to. This dude did a strikeout 3 times. He struck out like how many rounds did he box Fury anyway? I mean, like about 30 or so, 30 rounds. He struck out 30 times. You know, it is what it is, right? But could he knock out Usyk? Like, there's no doubt in my mind Usyk's going to be out. It wouldn't be the first time Wilder's getting outboxed throughout a fight. It happened in the second Ortiz fight. He was getting outboxed the whole time, and then boom, and it was over, right? And I'm telling you right now, Chisora landed right hands, AG landed right hands, and he wasn't getting hit a lot, right? Like with right hands, but enough to where it makes me say, can Wilder get one in? And my answer is yes. It doesn't mean Usyk's going to go down, and if he does go down, he can't get up, right? But it's dangerous. The same thing with any other fight. I think it's going to knock out Ruiz. And he'll probably getting out, however long the fight lasts, he'll probably be getting out boxed up until that point.
Yeah. And first of all, super chat, shout out my guy, Drew. PBC defenders are casuals who don't spend money on boxing but call you racist for demanding better products for your money from Twitter. My experience tells me that's true. I catch a lot of hate over there on Twitter from the PBC defenders. Shout out my guy, Drew. But that segues me into this. It's tough to call it down the middle with Wilder because it's become such a polarizing subject around Wilder, right? So here's the thing. You and I can call it down the middle, and we will. And the data tells us that anytime Wilder steps up against elite competition, what happens? He gets dropped. It happened against the 2 times he stepped up against elite opposition was Fury and Ortiz. First Ortiz fight, he gets dropped. The Fury fights, second and third, he gets dropped. So he struggles against technical fighters who are high IQ fighters who can punch. Ortiz and Fury proved that to us. Any other guy, any level below that, he's annihilating. He's going to annihilate. But what it also tells us is he still has, at 36, 37 years old, probably the best weapon in boxing, the right hand. I would argue it's likely the best weapon in boxing. He can cancel out all of his flaws with one punch. The Fury fight proved that to us, right?
There's only one, like if we were to take it to a pound for pound level, there's only one fighter that compares to Wilder. Now, this fighter is far more skilled than Wilder and fights in a more skilled division, and that's Inoue. But I'm just talking about power. That's it. Pound for pound, he's the only fighter that compares to Wilder. That's it.
He can annihilate you.
Now, really quick, before some smartass is like, well, you're going to compare him to Wilder. He's a heavyweight. He couldn't knock out, Helenius. Of course he couldn't knock out Helenius. He's a midget, okay, compared to Wilder, okay, whatever. But that's not what I mean. I'm talking about pound for pound, right? I just wanted to point that out really quick.
Yeah, and so to take it further is if we do these mythical matchups, top 5, Usyk, Joyce. I wouldn't put Ruiz in my top 5. I think he annihilates Ruiz. I put Ruiz on that level below. You would probably disagree with me there, but we're talking about Usyk, Joyce, AJ, and who's the other guy? Oh, Fury. He already fought Fury. But if you talk about those other guys, I could easily see those other guys outboxing a much stiffer Wilder, especially guys who are capable of walking Wilder down. Easier said than done, but when you have success in that, and that's why I think Joyce would beat Wilder, is I think once Joyce walks through that right hand, if he were to do that, and it is a big if, but he would give Wilder a ton of issues. But at the same time, we could say Wilder eliminates all that with one big right hand. So it leaves this big question mark. It's Wilder can lose all those fights. Wilder can win all those fights, which is why we want to see all those fights, which is likely why we won't see all those fights, because of the first thing I mentioned. I think they're going to keep Wilder away from those other guys and keep him more towards the PBC circuit. Track record just proves that. But my ultimate point is Wilder, when we're looking at his resume, he's still missing that big career-defining victory. He just is. He doesn't have the career-defining victory. Luis Ortiz and Bermani Stavern aren't going to cut it. Those aren't career-defining victories. He needs that career-defining victory that's been evading him. Everybody knows it. They're not going to admit it, but we all know it. He needs that career-defining victory. Would you agree?
I agree with that. There's no doubt. Look, I just want to say something about the stiffness really quick. I think what's happening is they're trying to add elements to his game, like Malik Scott, and I think he's thinking in there a lot. Like he's kind of thinking, okay, I gotta have my foot here, I gotta have my hand here, like I think, and when you do that, it shows that's where the stiffness kind of comes from a little bit, because it's not natural, it's not flowing. You know what I mean? He's not feeling it, he's thinking it. You know, and boxing is all about its muscle memory. It's that's what gives that kind of natural flow. I do think Andy Ruiz, because Andy Ruiz is probably one of the most he's got some of the best hands in terms of like he just does.
He puts combination punches.
Yeah, and it just flow, and you could tell he's been doing it for years, and it's hard to imagine because he's so big, but it just does. You know, the hands just flow really nicely, but. And that's definitely going to give Wilder a lot of problems. I just don't know. Like a lot of people rate Andy really high, and they're still living off of his one-hit wonder win. You know, but what has Andy done since then, other than struggle with Chris Arreola, who Kawanaki beat in better fashion? That should tell you a lot. Okay, and he looked decent against Ortiz, but I mean, I expected more, right? So how good would Ruiz be? Is that? I don't think that's a career-defining win. It might be a good win. It's a good win.
That was a great fight. It was a great fight.
Yeah, it's a good win if Wilder beats Ruiz, but at this point, I don't think it's career-defining because we got to put it in context, right?
Ortiz was a great fight. If you're talking about Ortiz, that first fight was great, and Ruiz is a good matchup, but I don't think it's a great victory. I just don't. If he wins that fight. And
if I could say something about your point about it's talking about Wilder so polarizing, more so than any fighter, I'm including Canelo in there. Okay, yeah. Who, by the way, got drunk and kicked out the band from the quinceañeras. His daughter. I don't know what the hell. That's what I read. I'm like, what? But people are mad. But like it was his house, so I guess he could kick anybody. It's his house, right? It's whatever. But. And apparently he paid. I don't know. That's another story. But I just found it hilarious that Canelo got drunk and kicked out a professional, like a well-known band, because they were. I guess somebody said they weren't playing the songs he wanted them to play. Hey, if he's paying, like you know what I mean, like get the fuck out of here, man. But anyway, but that's it. Oh, and he got mad because people were giving him more attention than his daughter, who was the quinceañera. Like he was getting mad about that. But anyway, so back to my point about the polarizing, even more so than Canelo, more than even Fury. Although Fury gives Wilder a good run for his money as far as polarized for sure. But here's the thing: if I say something nice about Wilder, right? They're super gay. They'll come after you like, oh, he ain't shit. He's a chicken leg. Never fought nobody. Of course he has knockouts. All the fights are fixed. And like, it's like, who are these dudes he knocked out? who could have knocked those guys out? And I think he's overrated. Blah 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 blah. He dug Dillian White for years. Like okay. Like I'm just saying, he's got good punching power. That's all I'm saying. You know, like, and then like if you criticize him, holy shit.
Yeah.
If you criticize, well, what do you mean? You're one of those that looks away, see no evil about the egg weights. Like what? Come
They told
on,
me
man.
all the time, you just look the part. You look like a guy who would criticize Wilder. What is going on?
Because Wilder once said, he said, "I see, you know, people that they see no evil, hear no evil." So like we don't want to hear about the cheating. We don't want to see the cheating. We're pretending we can't see it.
Everything Wilder says is something super philosophical. It's like, no, it's really not. It's really not. Just saying. But Fury gives him a run for his money big time, and that's my criticism with the heavyweight division. But I agree with this. I think I don't know if I completely agree with it. We'll see when he faces a puncher, but I think Wilder punch resistant is shot, and that would be understandable being knocked out 2 straight fights. And the thing is, that's why I brought up the stiffness and the interviews. Something just seems off. Something just doesn't seem right that we're not going to find out in a Helenius fight. We're going to find out against somebody else. Possibly we'll find out against Ruiz. If he can take a couple of those punches and land some combination punches, possibly we'll find out.
Wilder sounds like he feels he's been victimized. That's what he sounds like to me.
Right. But at the same time, it's not only that I'm talking about. It's just the all over the place stuff. 1 minute he's here, 1 minute he's way over here, and then the stiffness, like the shadow boxing did not look good. And maybe I'm reading too much into it, but something seems not right with his mobility. But that could be age too, right?
There's 3 possibilities with that. There's 3 possibilities with shadow boxing. Possibility number 1, which I don't think is true, but it's possible. He's
capping, right? He could be capping.
He's capping, right? It's all for show, to make people think he's something, or he doesn't want to show certain techniques that he's going to apply in the fight or something like that, right? That's always possible. I don't think that's what it is, but whatever. I just want to put it out there. Or he is shot and there's something there, right? Or he's thinking too much while he's doing it. Because processing from the brain to the nerves to the action takes time, right? And we notice that, like, at this point, it should be muscle memory. You know what I mean? It should just be natural. You should just do it automatic, and he's not doing it automatic, so I don't know if he's second guessing himself or what, but I was hoping 2 things happen. I was hoping Helenius cracked him clean so I could kind of see how he takes the punch. Yeah. And I was hoping it went like 2 or 3 rounds just to see if Wilder loosens up a little bit. Because I think what will happen, in my opinion, someone's going to crack him, right? And he's going to just go back to old Wilder, which is better for him. And then he'll just fight the way he's always fought. But right now, I think Malik's got him like doing combinations with the mitts. And it's like, that's out.
And it's funny, like every single trainer you talk to, right, or anybody who has an eye for it is saying, why are they doing the things that they're doing? Why are they trying to change him at this point? He is who he is. I would just work on strengthening the power even more, just setting up strictly the right hand constantly.
Work on the jab.
The things they're doing. So I just think sometimes they outthink themselves. We need to gain more weight against Fury. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to box. We need to move lateral. I just think you need to be who you are. And maybe it's getting in their head that people are not calling him a guy who's not a real boxer, who relies heavily on the right hand, but you are who you are. Rely on it. On it.
It's too late to develop all of it. It's just too late. You know what I mean? I mean, it is what it is.
Yep.
Like Hopkins was digressing in his 40s, but he had enough skill where he was able to hold on for a couple more years. Like there's nothing really to digress anymore with Wilder. I mean, what they need to just keep it simple. Like,
simplify.
People hate it when you say it the whole, like, oh, they got to be perfect for 12 rounds. I only got to be perfect for 2 seconds.
It's true.
Just embrace it. Fuck it. Like, just because it didn't work against Fury, like Klitschko style didn't work against Fury either. So a lot of guys shit didn't work against Fury.
Yep.
So you could argue he did better against Fury, especially in the first fight. Just go with it. I would just work on two things with Wilder. I would work on the jab. The stiffer the jab, the quicker the jab, the better. You can't go wrong with that. He has a decent jab already. You know what I mean? If he works on it, even better. And like an occasional body shot. But that's about it. Like the combination, he didn't throw any combinations against Fury. Where was all that? Like, bah, 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 against Fury. Where was all that? Everything he was doing with Scott. None of it. None of it was an issue. If anything, Couch, when he got knocked down and he got back up, and then he just said, fuck it, I'm going to look. That's when he knocked down Fury. I mean, when he was himself.
Yep. He went back to his human nature. He went back to his nature. Fox PBC's notable heavyweights graphic was comedy. That it was. Joe Joyce not on it for one. That was hilarious. And as far as the heavyweight division, I'll wrap it up with this is before I want to get your thoughts on Benavidez versus Usyk Tigwai. Fury is giving Wilder a run for his money, and that's been my frustrating part with the heavyweight division is everybody talks about what a great, entertaining division it is right now, and it is in spots, but my issue is we don't have a guy who is going to be the guy and it's going to be sustainable because Usyk has already signaled he's got a couple fights left, right? He's going to be on his way out pretty soon. Joshua can't beat him. I have my worries on if Joshua can win the big fight going forward against any of these guys. Joe Joyce doesn't look like he's going to get the shots, and he's already 36 years old himself. Wilder's on his way out, and Wilder, like Fury, is a head case. And then Fury is seen by many people as the guy, but he's a head case. He's going back to his 2014 ways with Klitschko, 2014, 2015, to where more retirements than defenses. This guy doesn't seem to want to give us what we want. And Fury versus Chisora 3 is a joke. It's an absolute joke. Everybody should be laughing at this. This is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. Nobody was asking for this fight. This guy just doesn't want to seem to commit to the Usyk fight. That's what it looks like to me. And you could argue he wants to tune up before Usyk, and it may play out that way, but it just doesn't seem like he wants to fully commit to that fight. And that's where I'm at with the heavyweight division.
You're not pumped for the trilogy? You're not pumped?
Not at all. My pump level is 0. That's ridiculous. How is he going to come out with a straight face and give us Fury versus Chisora 3? How is anybody going to try to sell that fight? Who in the hell would go to that fight?
Well, he looked at Chisora this way. The way he looked at Chisora and said with a straight face, "Why are you ducking the smoke, Chisora?" Like, what? That was one of the strangest call-outs I've ever seen. Like, it was just strange. What do you mean Chisora's ducking the smoke? Like of course Chisora wouldn't ask for a fight. Like, you beat him up twice already. Imagine
Chisora, like, finding out that they're in discussions for Fury versus Chisora 3, and he's like, his manager calls him and is like, yeah, you're going to get the Fury fight. He's like, I'm going to do what?
Yeah, he said you're ducking him. Like,
what? Where, like, he's got to be shocked. Like, where is this coming from? Like, I wasn't even in the discussion. I wasn't even in the top 20 for a discussion for a Fury fight. It's already been done, but the fight is falling in his lap because it's Tyson Fury.
Yeah, but like the way Fury was just randomly tweeted at him and said, "Why are you ducking the smoke?" It was just bizarre. It was just like, okay, I thought he was joking. And then they did the face-off. I forgot what fight it was, but they had a face-off. And Fury's looking at him all serious. Like, this is like a serious dude that he's going to fight or something. And Chisora had his little bandana covering his mouth. You know what I mean? And I'm just thinking to myself, this grown-ass dude, he's a member of the audience, and he has his mouth covered with a bandana. Okay, like what the fuck? What the fuck's going on, bro? You know what I mean? I guess he could say it's because of COVID, I guess, but.
Shout out my guy Nando. Appreciate it. PBC Pep Boys Championship Boxing, home of the tune-up. And that's what it seems like. It's what I was talking about earlier. I don't know if you caught it. It's you've got a bunch of guys in the same division in and around it. I'll just throw out names, the big names: Benavidez, Plant, Morrell Jr., 160 Charlo, who wants to be 168 Charlo, Boo Boo Andrade, soon to be with the PBC. It looks like you've got all these names, and they're not fighting each other, and then I'm being told that they want the fights, that the advisor promoter isn't giving them the fights, and then these guys continue to go out and praise the advisor promoter and sign extensions with them. So I have to assume that they're fine with the fights.
Yep.
They're fine with it. So what do you make of Benavidez versus Uska Tigwai? What do you make of the whole situation?
Usyk, is that his name?
I pronounce it Uska Tigwai.
Like I never, not even dogs can use a tick.
And his last 3 opponents, he had lost 3 out of his last 6 before his last 3 opponents. His last 3 opponents have a combined 51 losses and 3 draws.
Mm-hmm.
And he got popped for an EPO last December.
So, and that's the thing, right? You know what's funny is that you'll hear and you can connect Canelo detractors to this. So a lot of Canelo detractors are still talking about his positive test, right? Right. And they're like, oh, Canelo is a drug cheat, and this and that. And they do all this virtual signaling, but they're not going to say shit. They're not going to say shit about use a tick. You know what I mean? Because not even my dog can use a tick. But apparently Benavidez could use a tick. You know what I mean? Like this is one of the craziest things ever, okay? It's one of the craziest things ever. Right? I mean, I don't know what to like. I just don't understand. And then it's announced. Was it announced before? Yeah. So I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, or after the Plant fight.
So last year it was announced, and then they delayed it, and then he got popped for an EPO. So this is like a couple times they've been trying to make this fight, and they just let the smoke clear a little bit. And the guy fought 5 months later, by the way, with the PBC, and then 10 months later the fight is re-announced. So they waited for the smoke to clear. And my issue with the whole, and we've been through this D-style, and we've seen it on the back end, is there's just not going to be any consistency to it on any level. And the journalists who are doing the virtue signaling when a Conor Ben gets popped, my whole issue with that is you're not going to stay consistent with that across the board. And you're showing that by, and look, I have no issue with guys getting in the Hall of Fame who are popped. I got no issues with them going through with the fights after they got popped, because they're just going to make an excuse anyway, and they're going to be slapped on the wrist. But these journalists are trying to get on their high horse when a guy gets popped, and then when the Hall of Fame ballot comes around, they're going to be voting guys in who got popped. So I want everybody on the record, just what is your official stance on this? Are you going to be strong on this or not? Is it going to be somewhere in the middle? That's fine, but at least be consistent with it. And there's no consistency.
Yeah, I just think this. I just think it's a trash fight, and it's not the type of fight that Benavidez should be doing if he is serious about the image that he's trying to portray right now. He's trying to portray an image that nobody wants to fight. Well, Usyk is apparently willing to fight you. You know what I mean? So let's not like what's his name? Lemieux got in the ring with you. It's not like come on. The Plant fight, like especially after the knockout, you should have been in negotiations to fight Caleb Plant, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, because why? Beating somebody better, than the champion has always been the way to go. Always. That's what got everybody pumped up about a Haddon Mayweather fight, believe it or not, because he knocked out Castillo.
Yep.
Right? Oh, I beat him better. Or whatever. Like, all I'm saying is
it's the reason for the buildup with Mayweather.
Yeah, and it gives Plant look, Plant he's saying, I want a rematch with Canelo, right? And nobody really wants to see that. But in order for us to buy into Plant ever rematching Canelo, that knockout was a start, but then beating a Benavidez would be a second start, right? If it beats Benavidez, now a rematch with Plant is a little more intriguing to me, right? Yeah. So it makes sense for both guys to fight each other, and then the winner, right, can fight Canelo, and before anybody, and then fans start crying, bro. Like they'll like They'll be like, why do you want them to fight each other? Why can't Canelo fight them? Well, in this case, he did already fight one. But that's not my point.
Is it too much to ask, like, for somebody just to earn the fight instead of having fall in the lap? And as a fighter, I would want to go out and make a statement and then call out the guy. I wouldn't want it to fall in my lap. I don't know, maybe, who knows? But my thing is, all of these guys are they're under the same umbrella. They're right there. And there's been multiple times where all of them have nothing going on at the same time, and we still don't get the fights. And how am I supposed to feel empathetic? How am I supposed to feel sorry for these guys for not getting the big fight when all they have to do, Canelo told Boo Boo what he needed to do, and he was being sincere about it. He's like, just beat somebody. Just beat anybody, and you get the fight. And
bro, like, this is not normal.
One of these guys will reach out and get that fight.
Look, if anybody wanted to get a title shot, okay, in any other era, you had to do something. Like you couldn't just like wait around. Like, that wasn't a thing. It just was. Look, before I say that, did it happen from time to time? Probably, yes. Fights I've always followed to people's laps, but it was not the rule. It was an exception. All right, like point blank. So let me give you guys an example. All right, Trinidad, just like everybody else, I'm sure wanted the De La Hoya fight because that was a big money fight. Okay, but Trinidad was still fighting some pretty good fighters before the De La Hoya fight. Yeah. He fought Whitaker when De La Hoya wouldn't rematch Whitaker. He said, well, I'll fight him. And then he beat him better than De La Hoya did. And then that got people talking. That created water cooler talk. That, like, at the workplace, hey, did you see Trinidad? Did you see how he beat Whitaker? I'm not even sure if De La Hoya beat Whitaker. I mean, I don't know. You think he wants a piece of Trinidad? That got people talking. And Calix used the example of the UFC. That's what they do. Like, these guys don't just get a shot. They got to beat somebody. Like, they got to beat a top 5 guy or something, and then they get their shot. You know what I mean? That's just the way it works. Like I just don't. I don't understand what boxing fans don't understand. Like, they think everybody should just be lined up, and Canelo needs to fight all of them. Look, I want Canelo to fight everybody, okay? But I also want everybody to fight each other as well.
And that makes the fights bigger.
Yes.
And that's my point too, is the inactivity is another part of this. When it comes to Benavidez in particular, is his only fight in calendar year 2022 is going to be Lemieux. And that just doesn't cut it once a year. And if you're supposedly stalking the big fish, right? If you're the boogeyman stalking, why aren't you actually stalking? I'm being sold by the boxing fans and the boxing public that this guy is stalking Canelo, but he's not actively stalking Canelo. Because there are ways to do it. You keep up with even if you're not fighting the competition, you at least fight multiple times per year and knock guys the hell out to where people are like, this dude's good. You keep up pace with Canelo, at least with the activity. And the inactivity is a problem because we're not building other stars in the process, and we're not building a fight between Canelo and these other guys. The PBC
we're not building it. And here's the thing, right? I was joking on Twitter that if Plant had never fought Canelo, right, and he had that win on Saturday, right now, dudes like Eagle Boxing would be like, oh, Canelo's a coward. He's going to duck white chocolate. Watch. Shit like that. You know what I mean? Because he was white chocolate before Canelo, and now he's not white chocolate. Now he's just Plant. But he had the sauce, whatever that means. Maybe I'm not there in pop culture, but he doesn't have the sauce no more. But maybe he has the sauce. Is the sauce back at the knockout? I don't know. But can you imagine, just imagine this, Calix. Imagine if he fought Truex, right? And then the same month that Canelo fought Billy Joe, he fought Durrell. And he knocked out Durrell in the same devastating fashion. Right? And then with that performance, doing the shuffling and everything, right? The gravedigger and everything. Imagine if that was the performance that was leading up to the Canelo fight.
And then on top of that, imagine Benavidez fights Plant in the spring instead of Usyk Tigwai. And then and Benavidez knocks out Plant earlier than Canelo knocked out Plant. And there is your I beat a common opponent. Even though the triangle theory doesn't work, we understand that, but it does work in building up fights, is I beat a common opponent better than you, and that builds up the fight. And it's what I'm saying as far as Spence versus Crawford as well. Spence versus Crawford is going to happen. I just have to believe that it's going to happen. Could be January, could be March. I don't know when it's going to be, but I just have to believe. All eyes on this. It has to happen. But by the time it happens, let's say it's February, you're looking at a guy who fought once in 2022 and a guy who fought 0 times in 2022, and you're trying to sell that as a super fight. How are you going to sell that as a super fight when they fought a combined 1 time the previous calendar year? It's a hard sell. And what I noticed the PBC tries to do is they don't try to sell fights the old-fashioned way through activity. They try to sell fights through rumorville. They try to sell fights as to, they put out these false rumors. Oh, the fight's going to happen now. No, it's not going to happen now. It's going to happen now. It's not going to happen now. They build, marinate. And then on top of that, the possible opponents are talking trash to each other on Twitter, Instagram. They're trying to sell fights that way instead of selling the old-fashioned way through activity, through actually building up the fight that way.
Yeah, and then they troll the fans.
We're excited about a possible Spence versus Crawford fight, but I just don't just judging out there. I don't think the casual is going to be into that fight. Just no.
No, like because all this marinating, it's going to happen, not happen. We're in a bubble. All this is happening inside a boxing bubble. Like you know what I mean? Like your average person doesn't give a shit about what Cappinger saying that the fight's almost done. Like that's not something to care about. That's just something in the bubble, in the boxing bubble that people pay attention to, right? I mean, I'm already kind of numb to it, and that's the other thing. We've become numb to the fight's imminent. Like that doesn't mean anything to us anymore.
Over marinating.
It doesn't mean anything. Yeah, like I mean, who marinates something for that long?
Burn it.
What's crazy? Like, are you going to start marinating your turkey for Thanksgiving like right now? Like you're going to start like right now? You know, and I'm talking about Thanksgiving of 2023 now. All right, like you're just going to marinate the shit out of it. How long can you marinate a turkey?
Right.
Like, of course, everything is marinating, but for how long are you going to marinate it though? Right? And is it marinating or is it just the boxing business is broken?
It's just chilling. It's not even marinating. It's just sitting there on the counter.
I've interviewed. Look, it's like this, Calix. I had the privilege of interviewing the manager of legendary Casa Zoo, Tim Zoo, Nikita Zoo, right? Sean O'Connell, and he's managed other fighters, and he made it real simple. He said, back in the day, we didn't come up with an agreement, which is meet over coffee and talk until we came up with an agreement, right? He says nowadays that's just not a thing. It's not a thing anymore. Like it's harder to make fights now. For whatever reason, it's harder to make fights now. And I don't know if I could blame social media, but I'll tell you what it is. And he didn't say it, but he's a manager. But matchmaker Roberto Diaz has said it. Roberto Diaz just flat out said it on a podcast I heard with Los Chingones. It was in Spanish. Shout out to them. But he said, he just flat out said the pay scale for some of these fighters is just outrageous, right? Pretty much. I'm paraphrasing, but fighters are wanting this much when they're generating this much, you know, and then like what they're getting paid here would be like for like the big challenges, but we're paying them this for like to fight nobody. And then when we wanted to fight somebody, they don't say, okay, fine. No, they want even more, but they're still generating this. It's still the same thing, and no one is getting a return on their investment with these fights. No network has gotten a return on their investments on PPC. Okay, none. And before somebody says, why do you care about that? It's still money. Because a sport that hustles people is not going to last. The network's going to do what HBO did. Get rid of it. Okay? Because that's exactly what happened when HBO, when Time Warner merged with AT&T. The new management, whatever you want to call it, the new CEO, and I know this internally, he looked at the books and said, What are we doing? Why are we spending this outrageous amount of money on this sport that gets lower ratings than almost every show we have? What are you doing? What's the problem?
Yeah.
These fighters want outrageous money. Like you have you seen Adrian Broner out here talking about how they got no money, they're running out of money, and these guys got no money, man. They ain't in a good place. Now, are they? Here's my question to you. And maybe it's all true, but does PBC not have the money to pay Broner? Or have they realized that they just don't want to be paying this dude $5 million to fight? And that's what he wants.
And by the way, for people who might say that's an anti-fighter stance, it's like we've said on this channel, on your channel many times, you want organic, you want sustainability. It's not anti-fighter to want something that's going to be a generation from now. You want fighters a generation from now to be able to have access to paydays as well. And if you're building a product with no foundation, it's going to crumble. And the guys a generation from now aren't going to have access to these paydays. They're just not. All right.
Yeah, you can't pillage the place, right? You can't have a couple of dozen fighters pillage the whole place, and then leave nothing for the other fighters, by the way, and then the next generation. Yeah. That's not pro fighter.
Yep.
It's not.
And this comment right here is true. And people are going to say what they want, but this is my point with fighters with a good track record, fighters with a bad track record, and why we get what we get at the end of the day as fans is AJ just fought Usyk. And he wanted to fight again in December, and people can say what they want about the whole charade with Fury and AJ. My instincts tell me that what happened, and AJ wanted that fight. But AJ versus a possible Areola fight, if it happens or not, I don't know. But I would be forgiving for AJ because of the resume that he's fought up to that point. And I know that he's going to continue to fight that type of opposition going forward. So if he needs a fight, like I said, a body, I was willing to give Wilder a body as long as it wasn't on pay-per-view, coming off of 3 tough fights with arguably the top heavyweight in the world. Fine. As long as you don't put it on pay-per-view, but they put it on pay-per-view. And it's the same thing here. Is I'm willing to give him Areola because I know what he's going to do in the future. I know AJ's track record. I know AJ wants the big fights. I know AJ is going to be in more big fights. I know it. So we need to – I'm more forgiving of dudes who I know they're going to move forward and behave properly as a fighter. And it's the same thing I said. Paulie Malignaggi's out there saying that Devin Haney's going to duck Lomachenko. And I'm like, where is it in Devin Haney's track record that he's going to duck Lomachenko? I don't see it. Like Devin Haney was willing to go to Australia twice, and people can think what they want about Kambosos. But as of right now, I trust Haney from his track record that he wants to fight Lomachenko in the spring. And I trust that if Bob Arum comes to the table, makes that fight, that Haney's going to fight the fight. To me, that's just clickbait. He's just trying to put clickbait out there because there's nothing in Haney's track record to say that Haney's not going to fight those fights. So even though I'm not a big fan of Haney's style, I appreciate what he's giving boxing top fights. And it's the same thing I say with Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua will move up to the top level and not win the fights, but I'm appreciative that he wants those fights and that he fights those fights. And if we're more forgiving of those guys, then we'll get more of those fights. We'll get more fighters like that. If we're praising dudes who are protecting the O, then we'll get more of that in the future. We need to train the fighters. It's going to sound bad, but to take the top fights, fight top opposition, and that's how we'll get what we want as fans. Paramount is folding up Showtime soon, and that everybody's saying that, right? Like Showtime's going to go away, and what happens to the PBC? What platform?
Look, every time there's mergers, bro. Like, look, when there's a merger, and I have some data to show this. Whenever there's a merger of something, right, of any sort. Well, it's 2 companies. It could be a same parent company, but a platform is merging. Whatever it is, when there's a merger, right, that means that they're starting to consolidate management. They're starting to consolidate a lot of things, right? And usually the management that's doing better is the one that takes over, okay? It's common sense. That's why, like AT&T, in this case, it wasn't so much that they were doing better. They bought it out. They saw the books, and it's not that hard. Like, this is an example I was given. We pay all the actors of Game of Thrones a lot less for one episode than we're paying these two fighters for this one fight. But like look at the value that we're getting off of the Game of Thrones, okay? And not just live on the night, which gets far more than boxing. The archive view, there's people that binge watch it later on. There's people that till this day they buy the DVDs. There ain't nobody buying no Adrian Broner fight on DVD. Like, oh yeah, I'm waiting for that DeMarco fight on DVD, Calix. You know what I mean? Or Blu-ray. I'm sorry, Blu-ray, right? Or whatever it is, right? So what I'm saying is, I know you're not a wrestling fan, but pro wrestling, right? When Time Warner and AOL merged, okay, AOL saw Nitro and WCW and they saw the money they were spending. And they said, "What the fuck are we doing? Get rid of this shit. We don't need this shit." It was on there because Ted Turner was a wrestling fan and he wanted it on there. That's why. Boxing, the dudes up there, they loved going to the boxing fights, being front row and getting drunk that night. It was just a sideshow, bro. That's why it was there. The new management didn't give a fuck. Showtime, guess what's going to happen? When Paramount eats it up, like the new management's going to be like, what are we doing? What are we? Benavidez, Uska, who? Like, get rid of this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying.
And to Nando's point in the chat, and I've made this point in the past, is we've heard that Golden Boy is going to fold many times. We've heard PBC. I've heard this over and over. PBC is going to fold. I don't think PBC is going to fold. Their roster is too big. They're going to swindle some investors out of money. They're going to pop up on some app somewhere. And
he might just cash out, brother.
And here's the thing. What was interesting to me last week that a lot of people missed is Mayweather's next fight, fake fight, whatever it's called, exhibition is going to be on the Zone. So I saw that and I was intrigued by that. It's like, is PBC going to start popping up on the Zone? Is that what's going to happen in the future? Is the Zone going to start entertaining multiple promoters? Because guess what? As critical as I've been of PBC, I love the model of the network working with all promoters at the same time. I hate the exclusive deals. So yeah, they're going to pop up fights. They're going to pop up somewhere.
Yeah, it's like this, bro. Like why? You know how many great fights there's out there? Like, and it's like you don't need to be exclusive to one. Like HBO used to work with it. They used to have Don King, Top Rank, and then later on Golden Boy, and they still have main events. They worked with everybody. And then they set a terrible precedent. I don't know if you remember, but when they gave Golden Boy a blank check, pretty much, they gave Golden Boy 10 dates in the year. And it's like, what do you mean giving them dates and they could do whatever fight they want on that date? Well, that's stupid. You know what I mean? And it's probably Al Heyman, and to his credit, probably negotiated that, okay? Because he was working with Golden Boy at the time. But he was advisor of many of their fighters or whatever. But that was the beginning of the end, bro. You know? Yeah, that was the beginning of the end.
And the thing is, I think Showtime goes the way of HBO. If I'm reading the writing on the wall correctly, they're going to go away, not do boxing anymore, and then we're going to go strictly to the apps. And I hope the networks and the apps do the right thing and start working with multiple promoters at the same time. And the man who promoted Espinoza quit. Signs are there. I agree. And it's like a AD for a college coming in, athletic director. And first thing he does in the offseason, what's he do? He fires the head coach.
And I'll tell you something else. I could read people a little bit. You know what I mean? Leonard Allerby is already justifying the Mayweather fight by saying, well, Mayweather's getting his bag, so he don't care where it's at, right? But do you remember when like the Zone was offering Tank, like I forget how much it was, but it was a good amount of money to fight Tevin Farmer?
Yeah.
Well, that was a bag, right? But he was saying, oh, we're not going to do that. We're going to fight on a nap. We'll never fight on a nap. Well, you are fighting a nap.
But pretty soon they're already fighting on apps.
Oh, they're just going to justify it this way. Well, hey, they're getting their bag. Okay, like that's how they're going to justify it.
Yeah, and what people need to realize too is hypocrisy doesn't stick to promoters. It certainly doesn't stick to big fighters either. It doesn't. Like I noticed that a couple weeks ago when people were posting Eddie Hearn saying 2 weeks ago that the VADA testing and if somebody pops the fight shouldn't go through. And Eddie obviously said that before he got the test results. But what I was telling people is Eddie's not going to see that and say, oh, I need to stick to this. He's a promoter. He's naturally evil, right? They're inherently evil. So it doesn't stick to them. Bob Arum famously said, "I was lying yesterday. I'm telling the truth today." So it just doesn't matter. It doesn't stick to them. And I appreciate Drew with all these super chats. That was Al Heyman and Kerry Davis who ruined HBO. And boy, do I miss HBO. And I didn't think I would at the time, but boy, do I miss HBO. They knew
look,
how to build up
hear.
things.
Look, was HBO perfect? No, right? But sometimes when you compare it to something, now it looks a little different, right? So I would take that HBO broadcasting team over what we have in the zone any day. Okay. Check hooks, jokes aside. Okay. I just don't, I'm not trying to bash the guys, but they're just not at the level of Merchant Lampley. They're just not.
That was,
and the production value is nowhere near as good.
As much as we clowned, especially towards the end, Lampley with his crying, Merchant seemed to be falling off a little bit. As much as we clowned that at the time, that was the golden standard of boxing. It just was, and it's fallen off big time. But people need to get away from the apps aren't as good mentality, because apps are the future. It's the future. I mean, everybody's just going to have a la carte, whatever they want to put on the TV. So people need to get away from that thinking.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Like apps are on TVs now. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I watch everything on my TV.
It's the norm. So people need to get away from that. Like it's.
I have YouTube TV, brother. That's how I get my local channels. It's an app. Like
I have Hulu.
It is what it is.
I have Hulu TV. I have Showtime through the Amazon app. That's where I get free Showtime through the Amazon app. I get,
like, in other words, the app is just a way to get. It's just a means to an end, right? So, like, I'm sure bro. Like, I used to work for satellite TV. People said the same thing about satellite TV at first. I don't want to watch it on no satellite. Like, I'm not going to watch it on my, cable. Like, and yes, people said those things. Satellite now is outdated. Obviously, it was the internet took over it. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, here's what I'll say. It's just simple. That's all you need to know. Because of apps, okay, I'm going to use Kasta Tszyu and Tim Tszyu as an example, right? I didn't watch Kasta Tszyu till he fought Julio Cesar Chavez. That's the first time I saw him with my eyes. I don't know who the fuck this dude was. I thought it was some European dude. I was a kid. I know Australia wasn't in Europe. Forgive me. Okay. Plus, he is from Russia, But anyway, I just thought, this dude ain't going to be no Chavez, Then he beat the fuck out of him, right? I've been following Tim Tszyu's whole career because of apps, right? Kasta Tszyu's other son, I've watched all his first 5 fights because of apps.
Yep.
Right? We're able to watch all these Inoue fights, apps.
That's how we catch the Japanese fighters. That's how we catch the Eastern European fighters. That's how we catch the UK fighters. That's how we catch the lower weight class fighters. And guess what? That's how the people who want to praise what's going on with female boxing right now, you have the apps to thank for that.
The apps for sure.
Them up through the apps.
And watch out. The dudes are going to be like, yeah, I don't watch no women box. It's for women.
Stop criticizing the apps.
I don't want to watch no women. I don't want to watch women bleed.
Another point you just made, and it goes back to full circle, is you said the first time you watched Kasta Tszyu fight was against Chavez. The first time we watched Ricky Hatton fight, the first time I saw Ricky Hatton really fight was against Kasta Tszyu. They call it clout chasing the kids, or you can call it.
It was already a star in England, bro.
Yes. But what I'm saying is you fight the fights, and then that's how you get the recognition, and then people follow you from then on out, right? And they're trying to skip that part of the process.
And I'll tell you what else, like a lot of these fights, like, dude, whether it's Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank, right? Everybody's been talking about them a lot because their sons were going to fight. We would have known more about them if we had apps back then. Like those fights that we wanted to see them against Americans would have happened more often.
We didn't know more about Calzaghe earlier.
We would have known more about Calzaghe. Maybe we would have pushed Calzaghe to, pick up his level of competition a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying.
The Asian fighters who are on Hall of Fame ballots and aren't getting their way in because they didn't have the recognition, they didn't have the exposure. We didn't know more.
We could have had an Inoue back then, and we just didn't know it because nobody saw it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is, but that's the truth. I remember staying up late with my grandfather to watch like Finito Lopez fight overseas. Like, you have to stay up late for that. You know what I mean? But that was only on Spanish television. No U.S. networks had that fight.
Yep.
You know, it is what it is. And then all I'm saying is, of course, you know, people still watch regular traditional television with the bunny ears and stuff like that, but you could watch the same exact thing on an app. Like I'm just saying.
Yep, that you can. Where are we at tomorrow night, D-Style?
Round table 103. It will be on Ringside Reporter, man. I can't wait for that. It should be a very, very interesting show. I know Beeb is still doing the round, saying the fight was fixed. So maybe we'll talk about it. I don't know. And check out my Aftermath, by the way. If you guys get a chance, go to D-Style Boxing. Check out my Aftermath show, interview with Glenn Jennings. And, if at the least check that out. I'm trying to get it to 1,000 views. We're almost there. So make sure you guys check that one out.
He's hating on Frotch. He's still
no, but he's right, though. Like, we would have known more about Frotch if social media was a bigger thing back then.
And I'll say this, too.
I didn't see. Bro, my first Frotch fight was the Jermaine Taylor fight. That's the first time I saw Frotch.
Well, mine was Pascal earlier than that. But yeah. Ricky Burns, another one. Ricky Burns. We didn't know Ricky Burns till he had his upset. Top Rank signs Emiliano Vargas. And that's the thing with Top Rank still. Top Rank is still the best in the business by far at getting guys at the lower level and building up their career. Right?
You know what they are? Top Rank's like the farm system, bro. Like, like every baseball team has a AAA.
And boy, do they have young talent. Good Lord.
Yeah. That's what they are. And then like PBC has like their Yankee strategy. They just buy everything out. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty much what it is at the end of the day. But as we've seen, just because you buy shit out and just get the names just like that, the Yankees haven't been winning World Series. You know what I mean? Sometimes a strong farm system works. And that's why Top Rank has shown longevity. Right. And people get mad at Aram because he says things like, "Oh, I lost money with this." Isn't it fair game though? Isn't it fair game for a promoter to say he lost money on a fighter? Yeah. Like if fighters want to demand money and I want money, I deserve this. Why can't a promoter say, "Well, motherfucker, I lost money with you"? That's fair game to me. If that's the game we're going to play.
But they're still the best at plucking, eyeing the young talent, building them up, single A, double A, triple A, major leagues, and that's one thing that. Odo did mention in Vegas when we talked to him is he praised Bruce Trampler for his career because he said that the matchmaking was perfect and that he gave me the resistance early in my career to where I wasn't on training wheels and I was able to learn on the job while at the same time they didn't throw me to the wolves. It was like perfect matchmaking until I was thrown to the wolves and did
like it wasn't like because you got to balance it. Like you don't want to pad the record to the point to where when you step up you get fucking destroyed because you're not ready, right? But you want to also not throw them to the wolves, right? So it is matchmaking, and it is a matter of stepping up every time and making sure that every time, depending on how good your win is, you step up a certain level. They're doing that with Xander Zayas right now. They're doing it with a lot of fighters, and it's a formula. It's a formula that works for them, okay? It doesn't always pay off, but it has worked wonders for them, right? So it is what it is.
All right. And
the one exception is Lomachenko. They didn't do the formula with him. But in fairness, that's what Lomachenko demanded. So it is what it is.
He demanded, and then the amateur record plus the World Series of Boxing before, he felt like he didn't need that part of the process. Right. So it was a waste of time. But
it's very unlike Top Rank to throw a dude 2 fights in against fucking Salito. Like that's so unlike them.
Like Gary Russell Jr. to fight next.
Yeah, like I'm pretty sure like before he signed, like he told them what he wants, and it's like it's what I want, and it is what it is.
There's no doubt. Now, who's on tomorrow night? Do you know who's on the round table?
Yeah, we're gonna have me, hopefully yourself, Ring IQ, and Vivo Manny Marrero, and I know I'm forgetting somebody, so forgive me, but there's somebody else.
The trainer we have.
Oh yeah, the trainer. Yes, Coach Collinsworth's gonna be on as well, so should be a good show. Gotcha. And Beeb, of course.
And Beeb, of course.
Peace.
We're out. Have a really good rest of the hump day. Peace. God bless.